everybody. Welcome to another Pretty Good Gaming podcast. This is episode number 5 of 2019. It is the Tad Cops.
Tad Cops.
Tad Cops 2019 number 5. My name is Gareth Evans. I'm joined by Mr. Henry Cooper.
What is up?
The one and only Henry Cooper.
Well,
Let's get ready to rumble. I don't think they did it back in
No, whenever my predecessor was around.
Henry Cooper.
I remember when
Not Tommy Cooper.
No.
Not that guy. Henry Cooper, the boxer, like heavyweight boxer. He was fucking...
the
he was,
beast.
he was hard, wasn't
I
he?
remember when he died because I was at my my then girlfriend's place and like her mum was yelling from the kitchen, "Henry Cooper's died," and I'm like,
I'm right here, motherfucker.
sorry. that was odd.
The OG Henry Cooper. So today in Pretty Good Gaming Podcast, we have loads to talk about. We have all the news from this week that we're going to go through as much as we can. We're going to talk about Apex. We're going to talk about, let me just scroll my page here. We're going to talk about DMC5, The Outer Worlds. We've got some stuff to talk about. Disney. We're going to talk about EA. We're also going to talk about some other little stories, Sea of Thieves, Fallout, as well as a couple of other random things. Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3. So I did there.
3.
Freudian slip. Crackdown 3.
So there's a lot of games. Just in case you weren't sure that this is a gaming podcast, there's a lot of games in discussion today.
There is a lot of games. We've got some Patreon questions too, and we're also going to take some of your YouTube comments. So try not to get triggered by YouTube comments. We can't guarantee that, obviously. Talking of games, we have gone feature heavy this week on the channel. 4 videos, 4 specific games or impressions about them.
Yeah.
Although the first one, the Metro Exodus video, was first video of
podcast.
the week, which is a podcast extract. And oh boy, did we get some blast back from that. Like, how stupid were we to come onto a podcast and have our own opinions and not reverberate some of the ideas that have been germinating on Reddit for the past 3 weeks? How dare us have our own opinions about this and that? I don't know. We got a bit of backlash for that. That's for sure.
We don't have to apologise for shit.
No, it's one of them things, isn't it? It's if you go against the grain, people see it as them versus us. People think that we're against them or we're against Steam, we're in favour of Epic. And all we were doing was kind of asking questions and exploring how we felt about those specific questions. Whereas I think more people need to do that rather than jumping on a forum and just getting the information from elsewhere. Just exploring how you feel about a situation. That's the whole point, right?
And then if you come to the conclusion that you are pro Steam and aren't going to buy it from the Epic Store, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, your opinion's fine, our opinion's fine. So just chill your fucking beans.
Yeah, I don't think being personal about it and attacking. But this is 2019. What the fuck do you expect, guys? 2019. How can you expect to put an opinion on the internet without getting verbally attacked and abused about it? Like, would you expect some sort of some common sense rational argument? Fuck that. This is 2019 on the internet.
Yeah. Anyway. And my favorite ones where they're like, "Oh, these guys are just shills," blah blah. I'm like, well, if they're paying us, I'm waiting to see that paycheck show up.
Still waiting for that Epic money. If anyone's watching, and that Metro Exodus money. So that was the first video of the week, which it's kind of hard to take sometimes when you make a video and a lot of people come out against you and say, "Oh, your opinions are shit." It's like, we never said they were good. We just said they were our opinion. So we went feature heavy this week. We didn't go newsy at all. We played the Anthem demo, or you did, and we talked about that. That video went pretty well.
Yep.
Apex. We played Apex, which is the big news story from this week, which we'll get into in just a while. That was a decent game.
Also, we do a bit of Devil May Cry from yesterday at the time of recording. Played a demo of that, which was real fun.
I was super surprised how much I enjoyed that.
It's not really your kind of game, is it? But
not really. And I was tempted to go home last night and buy Bayonetta for the Switch. I think Bayonetta 1 and 2. I'm not sure if the 3 is on the Switch yet, but I know for certain there's a Bayonetta game on the Switch. And I was thinking, well, maybe I should get into this genre a little bit more.
The Bayonetta is one that when I played it, I really liked it. I just never got round to buying it, but it's been on my radar for years.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about Bayonetta in a bit.
Yeah, and DMC5, definitely on my radar now, that is for sure. So the last thing I want to talk about is that I played some Alien Blackout. Not newsy, right? I played some Alien Blackout because we understood going in that Alien they made this big announcement. We've got a new Alien game coming, and everyone was like, "Yay!" But then it was a mobile game, and everyone's like, "Fuck off!" And we kind of reported on it at the time. It's like, this is a mobile game. What we expect? How are you expecting people to react to this? Because this isn't the kind of thing that gamers want to hear. If you're building up an announcement, or you build up some sort of game, and you're ready to deliver loads of information. For the love of God, do not make it a mobile game. Did you not learn anything from the Diablo fiasco?
The fellas behind Apex, they're just like, we know it's going to be a controversial launch, so just launch it.
I think, definitely. We can maybe that's some of the talking points in just a while about the Apex and how well that's gone down, and that's a huge contributing factor, that's for sure. But Alien Blackout, I was intrigued because this was pitched as some sort of successor to Isolation, but not really. It's the same character, but it's not a sequel.
It's
because
not like
saying a
canon
sequel would have pissed too many people off, I guess. So I saw it on the store. I saw it was out. I think it was mid-January it released. It was £5, and I had some Google credit on my account, so I thought, I'm not paying for this. It's just figures on a fucking balance sheet that I already had. So I got it, and I played it. Stuck my headphones on because it's supposed to be an immersive type of experience, and I was somewhat surprised.
Yeah,
I was more because I was expecting, because we knew that going in it was something like Five Nights at Freddy's, where there's some sort of monster's going to get you. In Five Nights at Freddy's, there's an animatronic kind of monster that jumps out on you and scares you. But I was surprised that this. It was kind of like that. You can't get away from the comparison. Okay, there's this. Xenomorph running around the ship. However, in this game, it's built on stages, right? So stage 1, 4 guys come onto your ship, and you're, what's her name, Ripley?
Amanda Ripley.
You're Amanda Ripley in the control room, essentially, in the middle of the ship, and you've got a map of the ship, and you can see dots on your map of these 4 people who've just come onto the ship, and you're going to have to save these people from getting killed by the Xenomorph, essentially. So they've got certain tasks to do to repair the ship because the ship's in bad working order. Obviously, you've only got 5 power points to assign. So you can use, you can close doors, you can set up motion sensor corridors. So only certain corridors have got these motion sensor things. So let's say, for example, there's 3 corridors that you can set up a motion sensor thing to track the Xenomorph. If you use 3 of them, you've only got 2 power points remaining, which means you can only close 2 of the doors or whatever. So you've got to kind of manage that, manage the systems with the limited power resources that you've got. So you guide your players, your characters along, but you can tell them to stop, you can tell them to hide, you can tell them to run. So whatever, you can also point which direction that you want them to go on the ship as well. So there's a lot more gameplay in there than anything, something like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Is it a bit more like tactical and strategic?
It is, because if his Xenomorph is just going about his business, right? He can be on the ground or he can be in the vents, right? And if he's in the vents, then he's coming towards you in the control tower, because that's the only way that Xenomorph can get to you is through the vents. So you've got to look out. You've got to change from the map view to your first person view, and then close the door if the Xenomorph comes close.
Okay.
So there's that aspect to it too. So you've got to look after the people on your ship as well as yourself. So you've always got to be thinking, oh shit. And what really helps with this is the headphones, so you can hear something coming close, and you're like, oh shit, I know the Xenomorph's here now. I've got to break off from the map view or the CCTV views, which is another thing, which is similar to the Five Nights at Freddy's thing. You get to use the CCTV cameras on the ship. Break off from that, go into first person mode and close the door. However, if you're using all your battery allocation at one time, or your ship's power allocation at the same time, then you haven't got any power to close the door, you're dead. Game over, restart the level, which is quite good. I got a couple of my players, a couple of the characters I was trying to look after killed on the first level, went to the second level, just went on with the 2 characters, and the story continues. And what's nice is that the characters interact with one another as if to say, and they talk as if, in context of what's happened. So, we've lost 2 characters. Let's, they're talking like, so the narrative is kind of carried by the characters when they're talking. So what I found though is that looking after 4 people is a lot harder than looking after 1. So eventually I was down to 1, and I was on like level 4, level 5, stage 5, and the map's different on each stage. Obviously, you've got a different level of the ship or whatever, so it introduces like a harder layout or something. And,
Right.
but all in all, it's for £5, no microtransactions. It's quite a puzzle-heavy type of game. You're trying to figure it out. You're trying to manage what's going on, your power resources, as well as where everybody is and where the xenomorph is. You can't see him sometimes. You can't always see him because of the motion detector thing. It's interesting.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was a bad game. I
No?
wouldn't say it's a bad game. It's a lot better than Five Nights at Freddy's from what I've played of it. If it was on a PC, maybe people would criticize it for being not feature full. However, for a mobile game, if you're a mobile gamer, holy hell,
Yeah.
it's a good game. I've got to say it. It's a good game from my impressions of it. No
What?
microtransactions. You pay a fee. I haven't completed it yet, but I'm kind of enjoying it. It's not my theme anyway. I don't really like really tense, atmospheric games like this where who wants to pay to feel scared. I don't like that.
Oh, I love it.
Like scary movies. I don't know.
I don't like scary movies because I don't think they're scary a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But the ones that are, I'm all about it.
No, I'm not into the feeling of like getting tense playing a game. I'm not into that.
It can be very exhausting. Like you can't play a full sesh of like Alien Isolation and come out, and
Chill.
Yeah, just like, oh, I'm ready to go for a run. I'm full of energy. You're like, all right, now it's time to just calm down, listen to some whale songs or some crap.
Yeah, you do need to like learn to meditate or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised. It's not my type of game, but I played it, just to see what it was like based on what had happened with the build up to it. And yeah, if they hadn't announced it the way they had, it might have been pretty well. Maybe they should have done an Apex with it and not announced it and just released it. Now let's move on to Apex. That's enough for Alien Blackout. So Apex was a huge success. And a lot of this, you could say, was based on how they announced it and how they launched it, which was minimal fanfare, minimal fuss or anything. And we can go into, we've got some quotes from the guy. Maybe we have in a while, but first off, we're going to talk to you about how successful it's been. So the Apex Legends Twitter account, or one of the Twitter accounts associated with Apex Legends, tweeted within 24 hours that they had 2.5 million players in its first day. The tweet says, during EA's investor call today, they confirmed that Apex Legends had over 2.5 million unique users and over 600,000 peak concurrent users just one day after release. But hold the phone, it's 3 days after release right now, and Vince Zampella posted a blog post updating the figures. And he says, in 72 hours, over 10 million players have jumped into Apex Legends, and we've breached 1 million concurrent players. That is some big numbers right there. And if you compare that to Fortnite, which took 2 weeks, which is an actual fortnight, would you believe it, to reach the 10 million players milestone.
Yeah.
So for Apex to do it in 3 days is saying something for the success of the launch at the very least. Never mind, it might not mean that the game is better. It means what it does mean is that it had a more successful launch, right?
I think Fortnite was a bit of a slower build. I don't think everyone jumped on it as quickly because like there was like a bit traditional marketing campaign and it had the clear rivalry with PUBG. But this has skipped that and got everyone talking about it. So even if you don't like it, you're probably going to check it out because it's free, just like Fortnite. You can pick it up and be like, oh, well, I either like this or don't like this, and then move on.
The Fortnite launch was a little bit different because they were initially selling access to the single-player campaign for Fortnite.
Yes.
Early access. So they were selling early access, and the game was always going to come free the next year. But that's what Fortnite was until they decided to pivot the whole of the development, or the majority of the development, from the single-player campaign into the Battle Royale mode.
Battle Royale,
because they saw the success of PUBG and they were riding that wave and they did it really well. So Fortnite's name wasn't the cleanest at the very outset.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit of controversy attached to Fortnite because people were upset. People just upset about having to pay for an early access game when it was going to be free 12 months later. So that was the background behind that. Anyway, and they've reached 1 million concurrent players now, which 3 days after launch, you can only think that's going to go up if they've got 10 million players registered for to play or whatever, or installed. We've got to assume that 10 million players is like 10 million people have installed the game. And if you compare that to PUBG, which was the trendsetter in the Battle Royale genre, that peaks currently at around 700,000 concurrent players, according to GitHub figures that we can see. So it's getting more players than PUBG right now. It's currently number 1 on Twitch as well. It's peaking at just over 300,000 viewers per day. Its largest peak audience was 486, that was on release day. But it is trending above the other big hitters on Twitch, which are Fortnite, League of Legends, and Dota 2. So it's currently, as I was researching this morning, it had around 130,000, and it was comfortably number 1 viewed game on Twitch.
Yeah,
which just goes to show that the game is popular. It did something really well at launch. It's made a splash.
Oh, definitely.
It definitely has, and you can only imagine how many of the players that it's taken, or the player pool that it's taken away from games like PUBG and Fortnite, as well as Call of Duty Blackout as well, which was another one.
Especially for Blackout, because that's a first-person shooter battle royale, but you have to pay for the full version. They did a free-to-play solely Blackout thing a while ago, but I can't remember if that was timed or not. But so for people looking for the first-person shooter battle royale thing, you're probably going to go for Blackout. But now you can get it for free with similar shooting, because it's first-person shooter in the form of Apex.
Well, that's it. And for the groups or communities of players, or groups of friends, that a couple of their friends might not have Blackout and might not have paid for Blackout for whatever reason, then there's no barrier to entry for Apex. No. Anyone can install it and play it. They're looking at cross-play in future, but for now, anyone's got a PS4, they can play it for free. Yeah. Anyone's got any group of mates that got an Xbox, they can play it for free. So that barrier for entry is non-existent, just like Fortnite was in a sense. And using that revenue model, monetizing it in battle passes, which are still yet to come, they're not exactly here yet, as well as the monetization on the skins and everything like that. I think it's a great all-round launch for them. I think they could not be happier. You've got to admit, you've got to kind of feel like that they couldn't have done this any better.
Yeah, it's a massive win for Respawn as a developer as well, because they must have known, well, they obviously have from their statements, like they know this isn't what people want, because they came out and said people are expecting that we're making Titanfall 3. We're not. We're making this.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that they've done that, because it's so honest. They're like, we're not sugarcoating it or anything. We're just not doing Titanfall 3 right now. We're working on this instead. Give it a try. Maybe you'll really like it.
Yeah. So on the topic of Titanfall 3, earlier in the week, Vince Zampella tweeted, "Were tons of things planned for Apex in future. We are also committed to listening to player feedback. We are also working on more Titanfall for later in the year. Yes, I said the T word. We love being able to experiment in this crazy universe." And PC Gamer reported on it in its quarterly earnings call this week. EA said that it has a new premium Titanfall something coming this year. Titanfall something is the operative words there. Premium, in this case, rules out any other free-to-play experience. So it is a paid game coming. But however, more Titanfall or Titanfall something implies that, well, they've come out and said to Eurogamer that they're not making a Titanfall 3.
Right now, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it may come in the future, but it's not on their roadmap right now.
However, so it's not Titanfall 3. It's another spin-off, and it has to be some sort of spin-off or offshoot of something in connected with the Titanfall universe, that's for sure. Could it be a VR thing? Could it be a mobile thing? Heaven forbid, could it be a mobile thing?
Well, I would like it to go the other way from Apex, because Apex is all about the human characters. You can't do the wall running or anything, but the shooting is fundamentally the same.
Yeah,
I'd love to see whatever they do next expand on the Titan side of it, not necessarily entirely, but make them like the focus. I think that'd be a really good way to go with it.
I think what Respawn have shown, they've gained so much credibility with the gaming industry and the communities. What they've done with Apex, because they've shown that they are an absolutely solid if they hadn't proved it already, a solid development team who make great decisions, who have seen some of the backlash in the industry around announcing games too early and what a lot of media build-up can do to the reputation of a game before it comes in. So they've made decisions based on that. They've also, the gameplay decisions that they've made, like this new ping mechanic that they've come up with, which is
great idea.
One of the best features, as well as some other mechanics in the game, which is the
whole respawn.
The respawn mechanic is great.
Yeah.
It's an inventive way.
Yeah,
they're
respawn.
The respawn.
You can't not have a respawn. And I think they said in the, I learned on the Game Informer podcast, they said something about EA weren't really involved. Respawn approached EA saying, we'd like to do it like this. And EA, they had to convince EA.
Yeah.
So EA aren't the driving force behind it. It was Respawn.
Yeah. I think the way they saw it was when they went to pitch the game to EA, it wasn't a case of them pitching and trying to sell the game. It was them saying, this is what you want us to make. This is the game that that you want Respawn to be working on. As in, we are creative guys and we're working on something we're passionate about. We're being creative with it, and we're advancing the genre, and we're being inventive and creative. This is what you as a company want us to be doing. Although you're in charge, you can veto anything that we do. They ultimately have the power for that, and EA could have done that at any point. But they went in there and tried to, and that's the way they pitched it. This is what you need us to be working on.
Yeah, it's like when publishers come out and say, players don't want this, you want this. But Respawn have been, no, all right, EA, you want to publish this.
Yeah,
and it will make you loads of money.
Yeah, and I'm talking of money. They're talking about the monetization discussion. There's some quotes here. So it's McCandlish. I don't know what his first name was. The guy called McCandlish from Respawn. I think I'll read up some quotes here. And he said, a lot of games are out there and demonstrate ethical and less ethical ways to monetize. Our approach is to be free to play. You can play it as much as you want. You can explore all the power levels of the game without paying anything. You can earn 45 Apex packs, blah, 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 about... and he's reiterating here, there's no pay for power. So that's one thing, decision that they made is it's all purely cosmetic. If they'd done it any other way, people might have been upset. Even though it was
pay to win is a easy thing to fall into, but they've made it abundantly clear that's not what's going on.
That's the decision they made. And he says, to EA's credit, this was our choice, and they are letting us drive the business side. They're letting us drive being free to play. Technically, they are the corporation, and we are a member of EA. They can do whatever they want. We have a healthy relationship, and we've built over making 2 games with them. All throughout Titanfall 1, especially then, we're in a lawsuit. We're trying totally different games before we got to that one. I don't completely understand what you're saying there. There are some stories about how that game was made. Jeff Keighley did a piece too. We did a lot of different things, and that's our approach, and they supported us the whole time. As long as we're successful and they're successful, let's keep doing it this way. So he's kind of giving EA some credit there, because you can assume that EA, with a lot of companies that they own and the development teams that develop for them, that they come in with some sort of remit, right? You have to do it this way. This is what we want from your game. What have you got for us? Which
is very much the way it feels with Anthem, because BioWare have the pedigree of making big RPGs with Mass Effect and what's the other one? Dragon Age. But Anthem is very different, and it does feel very EA. This doesn't.
Yeah. I think what Respawn have been able to do here, and the genius of what they've been able to do above all else, is being an entity of EA and being able to still maintain that creativity and that freedom of and freedom of choice in terms of gameplay design.
Yeah,
because I think it's kind of like they're an independently minded, because they've got no mandate for this game or Apex or whatever. I mean, you can only assume that EA just give them free reign according to all the information that we've got. So I think that's the genius of it, right? Is that they're able to make all their own decisions but still be under the banner of EA.
Yeah, it's like they've managed to keep what their vision straight and focused, while having the advantages of being with a massive publisher like EA, like the financial aid and I would say the marketing push, but because there wasn't really anything, they didn't have to. So everything was where it needed to be. There's no like fluff.
Exactly. So to continue on with the Vince Zampella post from the last 24 hours, this has been a truly incredible journey. We tested and tweaked, we argued and agreed. We got to a point where we felt some magic. We knew it would be risky to take the franchise in this direction, to go free to play and do a surprise launch. But we fell in love with Apex Legends and we needed other people to play it too. We hoped you'd love it as much as us, but never in our wildest dreams could we have expected the outpouring of support and positivity we've seen from all of us at Respawn. Thank you for giving us and Apex Legends a chance. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This is just the beginning. We have so much more in store for you this year. See you in the arena. So, you can't say enough great things about Respawn at this point.
Yeah,
they've done a great job, and I think the final point I want to mention before we move on is some people criticizing them for not bringing Titanfall 3. I'm so disappointed in our comments section, especially on the video
there
this
were
week.
lots where it's just like,
well, there was a few, there wasn't that many.
Yeah, there wasn't too many. The word Titanfall 3 came up a lot, and many of them were like, I'd like Titanfall 3, but this is really good. But some of them were, it's not Titanfall 3, so I don't give a fuck. I'm not fucking with it.
They shouldn't have done this. I never forgive them for not going to Titanfall 3. But my response to some of those comments was, well, if you think about it this way, this game, which is set in the Titanfall world,
yeah, because I think the canon of it is that the Apex thing is like an arena, like a gladiatorial game show type thing.
Feels like that, doesn't it? So if this game does so well, and everybody's talking about it, and it gets a lot of attention, and people are on board for this game, because it's set in the Titanfall world, any other game that comes in future, which can be associated with this game, because it naturally will, because it's whatever Titanfall game comes, or whatever Respawn game developed, people will automatically have it on their radars, because it's, from the creators of Apex. It's in the same world as Apex. So a Titanfall 3 will do so much better now, or after Apex, than it would have done beforehand, given that Titanfall 2 did so badly commercially for Respawn. It was a bit of a failure in financially, even though it was critically acclaimed and a load of people love it. I feel like this can only be a good thing for the Titanfall franchise in its entirety, and it's probably more likely now that Titanfall 3 will come out or will be made in future, because they'll have so many more people on board with the franchise. And
I think whatever Titanfall related thing comes next will then fold back into Apex. So like, if they do another Titanfall thing, not Titanfall 3, they don't have to be like, we'll put a battle royale in, because they've already got one. So they can, anything in that they can use as like supplementary content for Apex, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they can be like, you play as blah 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 in here. He's now an unlockable skin in Apex or something like that, or any new gun they've added they can put in as an unlockable new post-launch content.
Yeah, they can cross over a lot of the content because it's Titanfall world. That's that way. But anyway, Apex is off to a stunning start. Let's see where it goes from there. Let's see if it can take down the behemoth that is Fortnite and get more people onto their books. Anyway, the next big story from this week, or that's second on our list at the very least, is the Devil May Cry 5 demo.
Yeah,
was pretty decent, right?
Good time. So I had a brilliant time. It was exactly what I expected. It played beautifully. It's everything I wanted it to be. You're a complete newcomer and you had a great time.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said earlier in the podcast, it's definitely something that's on my playlist now, on my agenda for going forward. It's something that I wouldn't have played before the demo, and this is another great reason to bring out demos. It's a validation for bringing out a demo, isn't it? It's people like me who weren't connected with the franchise in the past have played this demo now, and now I'm super interested. So it's another advocate for the demo, bring back demos kind of campaign that we.
Maybe it's just me, but it seems like Japanese companies still lean a bit more on demos than Western do, because Capcom have the Devil May Cry 1 and the Resident Evil 1. There was another one recently, but I can't remember what it was. but like games like Nier Automata, that had one, and I wouldn't have got that if I didn't play that demo, and I loved that because it was so weird and crazy.
Yeah.
What else? Monster Hunter had one. Again, that's a Capcom thing. I don't know. Maybe they seem to favour them a bit more.
It makes sense. Well, you look at the demo like Anthem and all the shady marketing beaters that come out before games in the West here. And I think a lot of our games in the West, they're not the single player experience that you get from games maybe from the East, right? And the more service oriented and so it's maybe more difficult to put out a working demo for a game. You know, these big publishers like EA and Activision, whatever, doing these big games that are games as a service. I don't know. Maybe that's just a reflection of how bad and how money hungry these corporations in the West are right now more than anything.
I saw a YouTube comment. I can't remember what the video was on. I think it was the Devil May Cry one, saying that Konami and previously Capcom were the Eastern reflections of Activision and EA.
Yeah,
I totally feel that. But then they're also saying, well, Capcom seem to be turning a corner. I wouldn't say they necessarily have yet. Yeah. But with the success of Resident Evil 2 on the back of Resident Evil 7 a couple of years ago, which did really well, and it's just a bit... It's less full of bollocks, essentially. Like, there's less controversy and industry malpractice, I guess.
Say that. However, one of the talking points we've got here is the microtransactions which will be involved in Devil May Cry. So that's the big question mark over the...
That's why I'm like, they've not quite turned it yet.
So can we... just basically outline, because I don't really know a lot about this.
So, your red orbs, they're your currency for XP, upgrades, in-game items, all that kind of crap. The microtransactions that are coming in 5 will be you can pay for that. You can pay to get extra orbs.
Yeah.
And that was in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, and from what I gather, it was very benign. Completely, you can just bypass it, doesn't mean anything. And that's great. Hopefully that's the case. I don't want to bank too much on it yet because I don't want to get burned. But I feel like it probably will be. But I don't, as I said, I don't want to get too confident in it. But the microtransactions are a very real risk because the potential damage is that the game will be stretched to make it grindier to then incentivize.
I get you. I get what you're saying. And this is why it's important to analyze these games and the implementation of microtransactions on a case-by-case basis. Now, I can see that being a problem in a large open-world game, a la Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because a lot of people said that they'd fleshed out or they'd stretched that game out and they put in the XP barriers in order to incentivize people to get the double XP microtransaction purchase, which you can totally see. However, and you've got to understand, people here, that I'm not advocating a a single player microtransactions in what I'm saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just exploring this issue critically. I'm not advocating anything in what I'm going to say, right? But with Devil May Cry 5, it's a single player narrative driven game. Yes. So how much more can they actually flesh it out? Because at every beat, at every turn, at every corner, you've got a little cutscene, you've got something that pops up, you've got new characters, you've got set battles.
Yeah, the way the levels progress is you travel through an area, maybe do a couple puzzles, a bit of platforming, get to a kill room, fight everything, and once everything's dead, you can then move on.
Yeah.
So it's
the type of game that if you stretch it out, people will be happy because what can you actually stretch out? Because you fight you do one level, you fight some menial little minion baddies, and then you get to a boss, and then you move on to the next stage. I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know 100% that's how it works.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I would have thought that people who envision this game stretched out would probably enjoy it because it's not going to be... How grindy can a narrative game get? I don't know.
One of the problems with Devil May Cry 4, and that's a product of strenuous development time and being kind of squashed into a release window. Part of the problem with that is that the significant chunk of it is just backtracking.
Oh, I see.
So you play the game as... Most of the game is Nero, and then... Stuff happens, you swap to Dante, the original protagonist.
Yeah.
And you go back through and do pretty much all of his levels just in reverse. And if there weren't these developmental and timing issues, that would have probably been like a proper fleshed out thing with like some different things going on. And the risk here is that they do something like that where they're just like reusing environments. Like, I'll just go here and just do it again.
Yeah, no, I totally get
like
that. I understand that.
Metal Gear Solid 5, when the whole back end of it is just replaying old missions with weird modifiers.
Yeah. No, I get you. And I think, like, I just want to reiterate here that I completely agree with everyone who says that microtransactions in a single player game, or any game that is a fee to play, any game that isn't free to play, should never have microtransactions in. I've always said that. I'm saying it right now, and I won't probably ever say anything different, okay? Yep. So that is where I'm coming from, guys, before you take me out of context and put words in my mouth and get angry in the comments like the internet likes to do. But, you know, with all that said, I do think we have to evaluate these games on a case-by-case basis. Yes. It's not to say that every game with a microtransaction in it will be affected by those microtransactions. Not to say that all the games that we have microtransactions in will be unnecessarily grindy. I mean, obviously people are going to look for these games and look for these issues in games caused by microtransactions to justify their outrage against microtransactions. And I think that's fine, because we should be highlighting all these issues within games, because if there are issues, that's part of our job as a community to keep these developers honest, right? And to stop them making these shady decisions. However, we shouldn't treat every game as if it's the devil, because there are fucking devil games out there and there are devil companies out there, right?
And this game's about killing them. Kill those devils.
We don't have to characterize every single game on the same way, because if we give the same weight of outrage to every single game that has a microtransaction in it, then it kind of loses the arguments lose their validity.
Yeah, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Like, there's no use getting as angry about something like this as it is with like Battlefront 2 with loot boxes tying your progression and all that. They're not the same. They're both bad, but one's significantly worse.
Yeah, and I think like coming out of that Metro Exodus thing, having the bruises of everyone else's criticisms towards us and our opinions and how we talked through that thing, I think what I would say to those people is just maybe think about it a little bit more critically, and don't always take at face value what other people say, especially on the internet. Just have a look, just think critically. That's all I'm saying. And
even if your conclusion isn't the same.
Yeah, I don't know. Devil May Cry 5 might not be changed one bit by microtransactions.
No, I reckon it will be clean, but it is a risk that need to kind of be aware of.
Yeah, it's easy to get outraged by these things because there is outrage out there, and there is I don't know. That's just how I feel, guys. Let me know if you disagree in the comments, but let's be nice. We're just having thoughts.
Yeah,
we're just having thoughts. Anything else about Devil May Cry before we move on?
Well, one of my only problems with the demo is, I briefly touched on it in our video, it's just a little bit short. And I would have liked maybe an opportunity to play as Dante, or in particular V, because V's the brand new one, and his combat looks so interesting to like anything else. I pretty much know how Dante's going to play, apart from any like new weapons he gets, because it's the same as he always has. That's how he plays. But this new guy V, he looks cool. Like, his combat's so different to anything in a hack and slash that I've experienced before, because he summons these creatures to do the fighting for him, but they can't do like the finishing blow. They can't kill them, so you summon them and they do the damage, but then you have to do the final blow where you just like shiv them.
Don't you think though that not putting that in the demo only heightens your participation?
Exactly.
For it,
so
which
I'm
is
very
exactly
mixed.
What the demo's for, right?
Exactly. So I'm very mixed on it. Like, I'd love to get to try it, but I know that the mystery of him is kind of very important.
It elevates your desire to play the game, which is exactly what the demo is supposed to achieve. So the demo's done its job for you to say, I want more, and just like throw your teddy out the pram for it. That's exactly what they want, dude.
Yeah, I know.
You're playing into their fucking hands.
It's like
hands
the fucking the Resident Evil one. Yeah, you can only play it for half an hour and you only get it once.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to. Yeah,
but I want more.
Man. It is.
It's good marketing.
I'm not saying it didn't work. I'm saying I just want more.
My only problem was I want more.
Yeah.
That's usually my problem at the dinner table, but there you go.
One thing I did think was really good, because you can replay it. You get to keep all of your orbs, so you can just rack them up and unlock the new abilities that you didn't have before. and it just gives you a flavour of the progression a bit more, perhaps.
A flavour?
A flavour flav. The other controversy around it that I've had my eye on is these like super duper fancy pantsy deluxe editions, where you get a little bit of in-game content. I think you get some extra weapons and the arms.
Yeah.
One of them is from Mega Man. It's his Buster cannon thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool and all, but is that all exclusive to the deluxe edition, or is it unlockable in game and the deluxe just gets it a bit early? I think it's probably early because the deluxe edition lists that you get a specific weapon for Dante, which is the motorbike, which turns into two big fucking buzzsaw things. Really dumb, but it looks fun as shit. It lists that as one of the features you get, but that's so heavily in the marketing.
This has to be part of the
game. Yeah, it has to be part of the full game. So I reckon they're just giving you stuff early. Maybe the Mega Man thing is unique. I hope it's not, but
yeah, it's all bullshit as far as I'm concerned. Marketing bullshit, and I think that a lot of the time that some outrage that can be generated by the marketing and publishing departments of these corporations can really undervalue what the game developers have done with the game, and I think that's an epitome of what happened with the Metro Exodus thing. I think Metro Exodus, the game as itself, will, by all accounts, and from what we've played, it will probably be an exceptional game. However, it's mired in all this controversy caused by people who made decisions who aren't the fucking developers. Yeah. And I think a lot of the time, it's easy to just like hate everything about a game and about a situation without just analysing what's going on here. Yeah. Who is actually to blame? Who made these decisions? It's not the developers. Let's not get angry with them guys. It's the marketing and publishing departments who've decided to cut off some of this content, who've decided to put it exclusively on the Epic Store, or whatever bad decisions that we feel they've made. Yeah. So
I saw one comment that just completely seemed paradoxical to me. It was like, I'm going to wait a year and buy it on Steam so I can support the developers. I'm like, well, if you want to be supporting the developers, surely you would go for the Epic Store because they get a better cut.
Get a bigger cut, yeah.
But maybe I'm being dumb here, but that seems like a bit of a no-brainer. But that's by the by, to be honest.
By the by. So we got to keep these things in mind, guys. All these issues are complicated. It's not black and white. Let that be a lesson to you. Anyway. Is that it now? We can move on to The Outer Worlds, which is being featured in Game Informer over the next month, and we are super excited. The last time we talked about this was on a podcast prior to Christmas.
Yes.
And we're going to get so much more information. We've already had an interview with Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, like the quick fire Game Informer, which is fucking fantastic.
I love the rapid fire question. Game Informer do such good coverage.
Yes.
I love
quickly
what they
becoming our number one media outlet.
Like traditional journalism thing. I'm on board with them.
We're quickly to the top of our list right now, that's for sure. Gamesindustry.biz I find it quite cool too.
Yeah, and they're good as well. They do quite, because they're business focused, they do some quite insightful industry things as well.
Yeah, I'm quite business minded, so it kind of strikes chords with me. Anyway, what we've got to say so far about it, because obviously we'll be talking about this, and this is my most anticipated game of the year, easily from the creators of Fallout New Vegas, from the original creators of the original Fallout 1 and 2, the minds of Tim Kaine. I mean, he is an absolute genius. Leonard Boyarsky, again, two absolute geniuses when it comes to RPGs. They've put a lot of thought and effort into this game, but we've got some nuggets to discuss now. We'll chew over some of the future information in future podcasts or in future coverage on the channel, so look out for that. But for now, what we got to talk about, Henry?
Well, it's definitely coming out in 2019. You said it's your most anticipated game of this year.
Oh, definitely.
They have explicitly said, don't know when, but they've said, we guarantee it's out in 2019.
Okay.
Great news. So one thing that I thought was, it sounds a bit, to some people, off-putting at first, but when you think about it more, I think it's a good thing. And it's not as big as some people may be expecting.
Yes.
Some people have been thinking, oh, it's Obsidian's like Cyberpunk. It's this huge thing, and it's definitely not. So there's a quote from the guys over at Game Informer from their podcast.
Right, and just to give a little context to their coverage, they've been over to the studios and they've played the game.
They've had hands-on.
They went on a trip, right? Yeah. So, I mean, for those of you who are interested, definitely check out the Game Informer podcast for like a more detailed explanation of what we're talking about here. But for the time being,
Yeah, it's like a 2-hour podcast with 40 minutes of it just on the Outer Worlds.
and this is just the initial.
Yeah.
This is just their initial coverage of the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, what did they say?
So it's not the most gigantic game that's ever been made, but it's one where every part of it, one where it feels like every part of it has been crafted and created to hit a particular vibe and give people that sense that we want. Give people that sense that it's because I've mistyped it.
What the want of a choice?
Give people the sense of what they want of a choice-driven RPG. Your playthrough is going to be different from my playthrough. It took ages to get through, but essentially it's not massive, and every detail is important, and it's all about your experience, your choices, and your Outer Worlds.
Yeah, and we know from the get-go that it isn't a large open world game like any other RPG, like Fallout, for example. There will be open world areas, but there won't be large sprawling open world areas.
Yeah,
so this is a more curated RPG experience.
I think they said, with regards to how many planets you can go to, I think they said, well, technically planets, there's 2.
Yeah.
But there's you can go to moons, you can go
Asteroids,
to
spaceships.
Yeah, like space stations, loads of stuff in space and other bodies, but to actual quote unquote planets.
And I don't feel, I mean, for my liking, a game like Fallout New Vegas, which is the previous Fallout game that Obsidian worked on, it does get a bit drawn out towards the end, and maybe that's it's one of my favorite games ever, without a doubt. However, towards the end of the game, it feels a little bit drawn out, and I know they had constraints in terms of budget and time scale, right? So they did have to skimp a little bit on, especially the Legions storyline and a lot of that. They didn't flesh out as much as they wanted to. Maybe that's a symptom. Maybe the feeling of it being drawn out is a symptom of all those constraints. However, I would much prefer a tidy 20-hour campaign
for sure
that I can replay and have a totally different experience because I've made different decisions and I'm taking my character down a different path. And one of the prime examples of that is that I can't remember the name of the scientist, right? A scientist who thaws you out at the beginning of the game, right? Because you're on this colony ship that comes to the Outer Worlds, and all these people are asleep for whatever reason. You get thawed out by this one scientist, and he's working against the corporations because the corporations want these people to remain frozen or whatever, and this scientist wants everyone to be woken up.
Yeah.
So there's this binary choice. It appears like a binary choice, although they did imply that it was more than that, where you can decide to either side with the scientists and follow that mission from the very beginning, or you can just cash him in, or you can cash in the reward because this guy is wanted by the corporations. Cash that in, and then you get loads of money to begin with. However, what you've done is, it might not be. So the fact that the beginning of the game has these two distinct narrative paths that you can choose is something that I loved about Fallout New Vegas, with the whole powder gangers thing at the very beginning in Good Springs, where you can decide which gang you want to be with at the very beginning, and then follow the game based on that decision and play it through based on your decision in the first. I just love that, and I love this is that's most exciting to me about an Obsidian game. It's not the open sprawling world. It's not the 60 hours. It's not the 100 hours or whatever you get out of a Witcher playthrough. It is this highly curated and meaningful decision-based gameplay.
And they are really doubling down on that because they want it to be a classic RPG experience with your choices and your character progression with what perks you go for, what stats you upgrade and whatnot. That's the focus, because they really don't want you to just feel like it's Powerhouse. You don't want to be a superhero or a god. You're just a guy. Because on the colony ship that you arrive on, you're frozen with 10,000 other people or something. Mm-hmm. And apparently that's the second wave of colonization.
Yes.
So it goes out and it's the corporations. It's corporate colonialization. They've gone out. So imagine the biggest companies in the world right now, they've been the front runners for the space exploration and all that. They've set up, and this next bunch of people are supposed to be coming, and they're to do the boring menial jobs, like laboring on blue collar stuff, not
waiters or like a lift
service
operative
industry,
or something like that. They said in the podcast,
and
right?
factories and all that. But it arrives late, I think they said. So
Yes,
it
for
doesn't
whatever reason.
arrive when it's supposed to. So they kind of just set up anyway, and they have this super like corporate heavy society where the corporations rule everything. It's all for them, and the people are just expendable, or whatever. But then the ship does arrive, and you're on it, and this mad scientist man is freeing you, but he only frees one, and that's you.
That's you, yeah.
And you're nobody. You're there to be like a bartender or
That's
something.
it. Going back to the power fantasy thing, I think part of the floor system that they've introduced, and these floors get introduced to you or presented to you depending on how you play. So if you get burnt by fire 5 times, for example, they might ask you to have a floor, which is you are susceptible to fire damage. However, they will give you a free perk point, which you can cash in for a positive part. And going back to how they envision an RPG, like they don't want you to be this like godlike character at the end of the game. They want you to have flaws going forward. And I think that's just such another creative gameplay decision that they've come up with, and that's kind of epitomizes what is great about this team, Obsidian,
sure.
Leonard and Tim. It's that they're so creative in that way, and they don't fit any mold. They don't make a game based on a mold. They approach a game as like what's fun, what's good, what awesome features can we bring to the game, and not just copy other big players in the industry and what they do in the game.
They're making the kind of game that they want to play, which I think is really cool. And with the whole floors thing, I think that's awesome because it emphasizes your strengths and your weaknesses. So normally in a game, there's like 1 or 2 enemies that you're like, oh, I hate fighting them because they're really tough or whatever. Like most recently, Resident Evil 2, I hate fighting the lickers because I don't have that much ammo most of the time, so I'm like, I just want to get around you and avoid you if I can. But with this floor system, that's only gonna like escalate because the more you fight this enemy, and you get the floor if you go for it, you're going to be more susceptible to them, so they're going to get even harder. But you're going to get stronger in other aspects, so it's going to really heighten that interaction and make you even more not stressed, but kind of like focused on it and being like, all right, I need to pay attention here and like see what's what.
That's right, and it's like the trade-off, isn't it? It's your flaws are definitely heightened by your your game. So if you like you said, if you're susceptible to being killed by robots, whatever was the example in the Game Informer podcast, if you're especially weak versus a certain enemy, then these flaws can heighten that.
Yeah.
So you'll end up being super weak against these enemy, however you get us.
Yeah.
And I just that creative way to think about how to build out a character in an RPG is fantastic. I don't care what anyone else says. But that is it. Then we've got more to talk about with the Outer Worlds in upcoming coverage. I don't think there's much else to discuss.
Once we know, you'll know.
Once we know, you'll know. Quickly, we're going to move on to our next headline of the week, which was Disney are very happy with EA.
Yeah, so EA and Disney recently both had their investor calls where they tell their shareholders and that what's what, and they tell them how they did.
This is why you should be giving us money.
Yeah,
essentially.
Like we made this much money from this thing, so we're going to make more money by doing this
or
thing.
This is how we fucked up, as EA said
with their,
in EA's case this week.
It's like 15% stock drop or something. Rough.
Yeah, man, it's not going well for EA right now, that's for sure.
But with Disney, they did theirs, and they go out like, we made this much money from Black Panther, from Wreck-It Ralph, all the Disney movies that we own. And then one of the investors or someone asked them, what do you think about the situation with EA? And their CEO, Bob Iger, he said kind of an interesting comment about Disney not being good at publishing video games, so they are better leaving other people to do it. So I got the quote here. See if I can read it better than the bloody Game Informer one. In the video game business, we're obviously mindful of the size of. See, I've already got it.
Size of the full stop.
Size of the. And this was directly copied, so perhaps he spoke weird because it's a transcript. Over the years, as you know, we've tried our hand at self-publishing. We've bought companies, we've sold companies, we've bought developers, we've closed developers. We've found over the years that we haven't been particularly good at the self-publishing side, but we've been great at the licensing side, which obviously doesn't require that much allocation of capital. Since we're allocating capital in other directions, even though we have the ability to allocate the capital, we've just decided that the best place for us to be in that space is licensing and not publishing. So that's almost dodging the question of how do you feel about EA? It's been like, well, we're no good at it, so we'll let someone else do it, which I think it's fair. But moving on, we've had good relationships with some of those we're licensing to, notably EA, and the relationship on the Star Wars properties. We're going to continue to stay on that side of the business and put our capital elsewhere. We're good at making movies and television shows and theme park attractions and cruise ships and the like. We've just never managed to demonstrate much skill on the publishing side of video games. Now, just because you're bad at it doesn't really mean that EA's that much better.
That is a good point. And I think what he's saying here is like, we're no good at it, so we've got a good relationship. What he says here is that we've had good relationships with EA. It doesn't mean they're any good at what they fucking do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that anybody else wouldn't do it any better. And it doesn't mean that they are the best choice. All that means is that EA are convenient because we know them, essentially, and we're shit at it, and we're proven to be shit at it. So EA have got it.
Yeah, they're in the games industry, so they obviously know better.
It's not really advocating EA. It's not really like saying that EA have done anything specifically good, because they definitely have had the missteps with. I mean, you can talk about it all day, like all the shit that they've come up with, all the controversy caused by the EA's decisions in terms of the Star Wars franchise. So why they don't just question that and think, well, hang on, and this is the thing, that question that it raises is, are they going to continue with EA after the 10 years is up? Because I think it's up in a few years now, right? In 2013 or 23 or something, 2021.
Something like that. I can't really remember.
Something like that. In a few years, the contract with EA, publishing contract, will be up. And then they decide what to do. And based on these words, for someone who doesn't like the Star Wars games being attributed to EA, it doesn't sound good.
No.
Does it?
It
just feels like EA have got a bit of a pincer hold on it.
He's not completely throwing them under the bus, but he's being clever, and he's not blaming them or anything. He's not saying, "Oh, they're bad at it" or "they're good at it." It's just, we're not good at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if EA are good at it, but I know we're not.
Yeah, there's no comment on how good EA, or apart from we've had good relationships, notably EA. So, I don't know, it is a business call, and they are trying to convince investors. So, you've got to take all of this with a pinch of salt. Maybe they're not being completely honest and truthful as to how they really feel. But this is all the information we've got, and hopefully, deep down, they know EA fucked up big time with Star Wars. And going forward, they are going to make another decision and maybe open it up and not have an exclusivity thing with the Star Wars franchise, which hasn't worked really well for the fans, that's for sure. From a fan's point of view, it hasn't been a really good period under EA.
I mean, it's Star Wars, man. Having the Star Wars license is just a license to print money. Doesn't, like, even if it's not a good game, Battlefront 2, with all of its flaws, it made a lot of money, but in an EA's brain it was still a loss. But it still makes so much money. Yeah. And it just seems like just a no-brainer. But we do still have this Respawn one coming out at some point this year. It's supposed to be in Q4 or something, in fall.
Yeah, I'm sure about that. Not sure when that is.
So,
the Jedi Fallen Order.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And Respawn have done well with Apex.
Well, that's it. That's another question for regarding Respawn. Obviously, they've done this Apex game. They're already working on the Jedi Fallen Order, and they've also got another Titanfall spin-off, offshoot type of game that's coming at a later date too.
And that's meant to be this year as well.
They're busy boys, aren't they? They're busy boys over at
Multi-game
Respawn.
studio over there.
And I don't know. I've got more hope for Jedi Fallen Order now.
Oh yeah,
based on
I hadn't
the
really
decisions
considered
that
it, but I do think
And hopefully they've got as much creative freedom as they had on Apex with this new Jedi Fallen Order game.
I haven't got the info in front of me, but I think it was in the EA call about their opinions on the Star Wars thing and what Respawn are doing with the Jedi Fallen Order. And I can't remember which guy it was, but the person who answered the question was saying something like, "Oh, it's sensational or spectacular or something what Respawn are doing with Jedi Fallen Order, and it really makes you feel like a Jedi or something.
Right.
I mean, it is corporate speak.
It's hyperbole. It's what EA do. And that's my next point, actually, because we are going to move on now to talk about EA's conference call that came out this week. So, and we noted this earlier, EA stock took the largest drop in more than a decade after the earnings call this week because they didn't hit their revenue expectations, their guidance, or whatever they fucking call it. Yeah. It was something like 1.3 billion that they expected to make in the quarter, and they only made 1.2 billion. So it wasn't enough hundreds of millions for peasants. Them. So everyone was like, "Oh shit, this EA stocks," and they dumped a load of stock. So it's really. I know you're making shitloads of money here. Do you really need to make all the money?
Yeah, we're only making shitloads, but we want to make absolute shitloads, like, come on.
So during the call, CEO Andrew Wilson outlined the reason why EA hadn't achieved the revenue forecast, and the blame was mainly attributed to the disappointing sales of Battlefield 5. And he gave his excuses, or reasons, as he likes to call them, why the game failed to meet those expectations. And he said, first off, the game was delayed a month from October the 19th to November 20th. Like, that was a reason. They moved the game back to get away from Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying that this is a contributing factor why it didn't do so well. Like, if you'd released on October 19th, you might have done significantly worse there, Andrew. So, like, that's your arse you're talking out of there, dude.
Yeah.
And also, the other decision that they made, which contributed to the bad sales of Battlefield 5, was prioritizing single-player content over Battlefield 5's still unreleased Battle Royale mode. So he's saying he's prioritized the single-player content. So the decision they made as a company was, we're not going to get everything made in time for the release date. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the single-player content and not the Battle Royale mode. Instead of doing what any reasonable other corporation or company would do, is delaying it until the new year. Oh, EA cannot do that. Nope. They can't do that. They can't physically do that because they've got shareholders to appease, and they need to hit targets.
Yeah.
And this is where creativity and gameplay and just like good games are just thrown by the wayside. All they're interested in is money. And that was the decision. He's not saying that, though, is he? He's saying that, because we focused on single-player game. It's a symptom of the fucking reason here, dude. And he didn't focus on Battle Royale. And these are his quotes, right? And this... I'm getting a little bit worked up here because he's talking shit, man. He's talking absolute trash. And anybody with any ounce of fucking critical thinking can see that. He says the reason the game was delayed was to fully deliver on the potential of the live service. Now, they delayed it, right, to prioritize the single-player content. They didn't even have the single-player fucking content at launch. It came 2 weeks later. It came in January. In early December. So what the fuck are you talking about there, Mr. Andrew? And also, he says the delayed launch pushed the game, quote, deeper into a competitive holiday window where heavy price discounting was a big factor. Away from Call of Duty, which has only worked in your favor, how can you say that Black Friday deals affected the sales of your game? So you're saying everyone else who wanted to buy Battlefield 5 didn't because they were buying Shadow of the Tomb Raider or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's bullshit, dude. Your game sucked and it wasn't feature complete. His other quote here is, we also made the decision to prioritize other features, including single-player experience at launch of a Battle Royale, which is what I mentioned earlier, so I'm just going over old ground there. So as a result of these decisions, we struggled to gain momentum and we did not meet our sales expectations for the quarter. It's not those decisions, dude. It's your fucking company outlook. It's your corporate outlook. It's forcing games to be released in a certain window in order to meet sales targets, right? It's the fact that 4-player co-op mode called Combined Arms was missing at launch. The game wasn't complete. Firestorm, which is Battle Royale, coming out in March, that isn't even in the fucking game yet.
Still not there.
3 major components for the game weren't in it at launch, even though you pushed it back a month. What the fuck are you talking about? The game sucked. It wasn't anything to do with other games on discount, and it wasn't anything to do with you prioritizing a mode that wasn't even in the game at launch. You fucking lying motherfucker, Mr. Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, but Black Ops 4 did really well, and they didn't have single player, and they did have Battle Royale, so that's why we lost, because we had single player and didn't have Battle Royale.
It's just excuses, man.
What a prick.
It stinks like shit, and anybody with any ounce of fucking sense can see and smell the shit a mile off. Anyway, Battlefield 5 has sold 7.3 million copies, putting it 1 million units below the company's expectations. 7.3 million copies in anybody's book other than EA is a huge success. The fact that they sold 1 million less than they'd fucking told their shareholders.
So maybe you can start meeting your expectations if you lower your expectations.
Well, that doesn't make all the money though, does it?
True.
It's
They've got to
trying
tell
make
the
more money.
investors, we're going to make this many. Yeah, but you made this many last year. Right, we'll make this many. Fuck off.
So Andrew Wilson described Q3 revenue, saying, "We did not perform to our expectations," and I guess he knows how we feel now because they haven't met our expectations in fucking years, have they? So BioWare have gone on record stating that the Anthem public demo exceeded our expectations. Talking about expectations, so BioWare actually saying that the demo exceeded our expectations, which I don't know what the fuck were they expecting? A fucking dumpster fire or something? It just like what their expectations were incredibly low in that case.
I was expecting a game to fucking run
To work.
to not boot me back to the
At
beginning.
least expect the fucking demo to work, but no,
yeah.
it's not. That's not even an expectation for BioWare apparently. Anyway,
Jesus.
Wilson told EA's investors that the demo resulted in, and this is the fucking worst, man. This epitomizes what is wrong with EA and the AAA industry. Andrew Wilson actually said this about the Anthem demo. People realizing it is a game that's unlike any other game they've ever played. This is just complete and utter trash, right? Who in the right minds...
Where do you get that from?
Who in the right minds who's played this game thinks it's like unlike any other game we've ever played? Who said that to him? He's talking to the wrong fucking people, or he's making that shit up because he's a head of a corporate fucking entity who needs this type of hyperbole in the press in order to get investors back on the side. This is, again, another example of corporate bullshit, Andrew. Nobody's buying it. It's just like Destiny. Everyone says it's like Destiny. There's no way it's unlike any other game they've ever played. It's not genre defying. It's just another games as a service type of game, which is just people are going to get bored with after they reach like the level cap, which is something like 25 or 30 or whatever. They're going to get bored with, and it's going to be like, where's the end game content? Exactly the same fucking shenanigans that happened with the Destiny franchise. I don't know who eats this shit up, but I tell you, Andrew, it's not me.
I've not seen you get worked up for a while, but then again,
I'm not
it's
worked
EA,
up.
man.
It's just comedy. It's just like comedy. It's like
you can't write this stuff.
it's just the dishonesty. It's the complete dishonesty. And you look like we've just talked about the Outer Worlds, right? And one of the notable things about Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky is how honest and upfront they are about it, saying that
integrity.
We can't have character romances in the game because we're limited by this and that. And we'd love to do a sequel. There's these honest points that they're coming out, and they're being completely honest with and refreshing with the communities. And they're not being hyperbolic and saying, "Oh, this game is the best game you're ever going to play. This is going to be a genre-defining thing." They're not like upselling it, or they're not like trying to bloat it out of proportion, which is the big problem with these big core AAA games. It's coming out of fucking Andrew Wilson's mouth, and he obviously doesn't understand the fucking industry, and he doesn't understand the communities if he thinks that saying shit like this is going to do anything but destroy the reputation of the game at launch, because people are going to be expecting way too much.
And how did Tim and Leonard respond when asked about microtransactions? They said,
way.
"Hell no, hell no."
There you go. That's the difference between actual game development industry right now and just corporate game development, which is two complete different things, motherfucker. Anyway, we're going to take a break now, and then we're going to come back with more things to talk about. I've rabbited on. It's been over an hour already, and we've still got to talk about a lot of other things. So we're going to take a short break. We will be back shortly after this very short music interlude. Hello and welcome back to the second part of this week's podcast, Pretty Good Gaming Podcast. I'm joined once again by Mr. Henry Cooper. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. I'm a bit fuller now. Had some grub.
Had some grub and some coffee, the important stuff.
Well,
some sustenance.
I had an orange juice.
Well, you know, each to their own. This little article has popped up in my newsfeed. Well, before we go on, and it's quite interesting, right? This is to do with Division 2, and I just want to touch on this briefly before we move on. This is an article at the website GitHype, and this is the site I use to track all the viewing figures and player figures on Twitch and the player figures on Steam and stuff to see how well games are performing or whatever. However, the title of this, sometimes they do certain articles, and the title of this article just published says interest in the Division 2 is significantly down, with viewer counts for the beta much lower than the first game on Twitch, which is very interesting. This is like breaking news. Obviously, we're filming this on Friday, so you're watching this as a patron on the Saturday, if I publish this on the Saturday, and this is maybe old news for you if you guys are watching on YouTube on the following Monday. However, this is I don't know whether we expected this or not, but the Division 2 peaked at 105,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch, whereas last year, or the last installment, the original Division, was 149,000 viewers on Twitch. That's down 50% or 30% down, which people might say that it's not really indicative of how much people are excited for the game. But according to GitHub, the people who are analysing these figures, they say that these figures are very indicative, and these views are based on the beta, closed beta, which has been available since yesterday. And as a little bit more context, we talked earlier about Apex Legends hitting a peak of 486,000 viewers. Anthem, in its beta recently, had 324,000 viewers. Atlas, the pirate MMO, peaked at 318,000 viewers recently. Black Ops 4 at the end of last year, 508,000 viewers. And that's it. So as a little bit of context, is this indicative of the Division 2? I said Destiny 2, which is another one, which is quite general. And my theory on this is that the game just looks way too similar to the original one.
It doesn't look like they've innovated that much. And because it's a closed beta at the moment, so only certain people get access. I think it's if you pre-ordered, you can play it now or something. I can't really remember. So if you didn't pre-order and you're interested in the game, but you just haven't committed to the pre-order, you definitely would be watching.
You'd want to be checking it out,
exactly, ahead of time. And obviously, people don't care as much.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's an indication of how interested people are.
That's for sure. And it's another Ubisoft game coming this year pretty soon. And thinking of Ubisoft games that bombed, Watch Dogs 2 was one that kind of bombed, and that was a sequel to a pretty disappointing original IP in the first place. Division 2, I don't know, is it the wrong time? There's a lot of games as a service, looter shooter type games, with Anthem being, if you can compare the viewing figures between Anthem and the Division 2, which you would say that they're in direct competition with one another.
For sure.
I mean, you're talking 3 to 4 times more viewers on the Anthem watching on Twitch, or the interest seems to be 3 to 4 times more on Anthem than the Division 2. So what does that say? Does that writing on the wall for the Division 2? Ubisoft maybe didn't get the marketing right with it. I don't know.
You could argue that because Anthem's out a little bit sooner, that's an argument you could make. I don't think that would factor in that much, because Anthem's out this month and Division 2 is out in March. Mm-hmm. So you could say, oh, well, the hype train isn't at its apex yet. But I don't know. I still think this is a bad sign for Division 2.
I think it's a very crowded March as well, looking at the wall over there. Dead or Alive 6 comes on the 2nd. You've got Devil May Cry the week after that, Division 2 the week after that, Sekiro the week after that. You've got a couple of indie-type games, Left Alive and The Sinking City, which also look interesting, and also Generation Zero is a game which we've covered on the channel in the past. They're all coming out in March. There's a lot of games there. It's a very crowded window. It's very unusual, right?
Yeah. Gaming season's weird now. You used to get peaks and troughs, but now everything's kind of up and down, up and down, up and down all year long.
There has to be winners and losers, and it, by all indications, according to this article, according to the viewers on Twitch, the amount of people not watching it on Twitch, more like, Division might well be one of those.
You can only play so many games, and maybe because Anthem is coming out, Anthem is more different to the Division 1 than Division 2 is. So maybe they're getting their like games as a service, ongoing sort of MMO, but not experience from Anthem rather than Division.
That's it. I played Division 2 at EGX this year. It was so underwhelming. I hadn't played the original Division, and I was excited to get my hands on Division 2 to see what it was. It's just a bullet spongy, team-based looter shooter thing. I didn't get any enjoyment out of the combat at all because it was just waves and waves of enemies coming at you, running, gunning, and it just didn't feel very satisfying to shoot. And I just hate bullet spongy type of games anyway. I would much rather really tight AI who cover really well and just poke out and take a couple of shots. That you have to work to kill, but the bullets are like shoot them in the head, they die. Yeah, lethal. Or shoot them in the arm and they go down or whatever. I'd much rather a more realistic game like that. I mean, I guess you have to balance it out, gameplay versus reality. Yeah, there has to be a tight balance in that. But I would much rather have to think carefully about where I put my character and then work my way to flank around cover and have to take out people that way, then just bullets and magazines upon magazines into pile of bullets. Especially
because The Division is one of the Tom Clancy's games, right? It's in the Tom Clancy's banner. When they've got super tactical games like Rainbow Six Siege, that's very tactical, and up until Wildlands, but the Ghost Recon series, that was very tactical. It's all about thinking about your situation and analysing it technically and all that. But then Division 2, it's just shoot until they die.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not... The game isn't aimed at people like me. I don't appreciate that type of game. However, the people that do appreciate that type of game got so many different options now. That part of the market is so saturated with the likes of Anthem and Destiny and whatever else wants to come up. People might get bored of the genre entirely and move over to a free-to-play battle royale game, for example. They might be interested in something like that. I don't know. What I'm saying is that the Division 2 isn't looking too good for that game right now. So let's move on to the more lighter headlines from this week, and let's quick fire through a few of these. So this is the funniest one of the week, and funny as in comedy, as in humorous. Okay, first up, Polygon ran an article with the headline, and I shit you not, Red Dead Redemption 2 can be a struggle for players with poor eyesight. That is. I mean, it's lucky that they avoided any potential outrage, because luckily enough, people who might be outraged were having trouble reading the fucking article. Because you know what else is hard for people with poor eyesight? Reading.
I mean, enjoying a visual medium with severe visual difficulties and impairments, you're not going to get the most out of it. I didn't read the whole article because I was just like, I can't be dealing with this. But essentially, the guy was saying that the games look too detailed or something, and you can't focus on them. But then actually says, I'm legally blind according to some definitions. I'm like, well, if you're legally blind, of course you're going to have trouble.
I mean, I see where he's coming from. He's a guy I think this guy has actually only written one article for
I don't
Polygon.
think
it was him, and obviously he's having trouble playing this game, and he just wants to express that. I get that. However, is this news? Is it any different to any other game? Should we be upset with Red Dead Redemption 2? This is what this article implies, is that Red Dead Redemption 2 should be criticised because it's not inclusive.
Yeah.
You know, all these games getting criticism and they want to be inclusive. You can see EA getting on this already, writing games in Braille in future.
I mean, I get games should be accessible to the most amount of people, but you can't expect it to be accommodating for everyone, right? I think it's a great idea when they've got colorblind filters in your settings. True. Because you can change the color palettes, and then it's easier to read as a person with colorblindness or anything like that. But that doesn't change the actual fundamentals of the game. You can't be expected to change the core game or reduce the level of detail.
I wasn't raising this so we could have a serious discussion about it. I was just like, that's funny. Anyway, moving on. The next, we're going to talk about Fallout. So GameStop in Germany are currently running a promotion where you get a free copy of Fallout 76 with every purchase of a used controller, which makes another great reason to buy all of your controllers brand fucking new.
Oh man, that's fucking funny.
One of Fallout 76's many issues in the game is having enough space to store all your junk. And obviously that's a problem very familiar to GameStop customers in Germany who are buying used controllers right now. They don't know where to throw that junk package of Fallout 76, right?
Yep. Jesus.
Just thought that was another funny little thing. What happened was they generated so much and they just couldn't sell Fallout 76. So they're literally giving them away.
Yeah, literally shoveling shit.
Tagging them onto like used controllers or whatever. It's like, well, I'll just get a new controller then, please.
Buy your used controller, get the free copy, trade the free copy in.
Okay, I'm currently Googling Fallout 76 on eBay and see how much we can buy it for. That's not what I wanted, Power Armor Edition.
Oh, wow, someone's selling that. Fucking
16 quid on PS4, 17 quid for PS4. I mean, if you wanted to make some money back on that used controller, I guess that's an option.
Oh, man.
So next up, this is another funny little headline. This week, Sea of Thieves is allowing owners of the game to gift free access for a week for up to 3 of their friends. However, let's be honest here, if you're the kind of person to ask anyone to play Sea of Thieves for a week, you probably don't have 3 friends.
Yeah. Oh, I'm playing this really cool game. It's all about pirates and stuff. Do you want to play? Nope.
So the quickest way to get ghosted by your friends.
Yeah.
I really love Sea of Thieves. Play it with me.
Sorry, I'm busy that week.
Busy for a whole week. Yeah.
I'm playing the Anthem demo. Yeah, but that finished last week.
Yeah, you could offer it to total strangers. The easy part of that would be finding 3 people who haven't actually played the game yet, because I'm sure there's fucking loads. The hardest part of that is finding people who wouldn't laugh in your face just for asking them.
Oh man,
I find. So, I mean, obviously, Sea of Thieves has brought more content since launch. It's probably in a better state it was since I last played it. However, I mean, I was interested in checking it out from reporting on its perspective to see how the game's changed, but it's just more games than I can currently handle.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
can't prioritize that sort of thing.
I might have some time during the week. I actually got some codes off Rob on the Discord. Funnily enough, he didn't distribute them to it. He says I've just got free codes. You can have them if you want them because I've got nobody on. Which makes sense, right? Because
well, it is a good deal, and if you have got 3 people who want to play it, it's a good deal.
I've got 3 codes and I've got no inclination to play it. So
yeah, there you go. Oh. If you want to play it,
I still appreciate them, Rob. Shout out. So the next headline was Crackdown 3, and obviously this is going to come to Xbox Game Pass when it launches on February the 15th. However, with Far Cry New Dawn launching and the new Metro game coming on exactly the same day, Crackdown is the game that many people will pass on. Get it? Game Pass. The people will be Game Passing that one. I try my best. That was the bottom of the barrel.
What was it you called it earlier? Cackdown?
Yeah, Cackdown was probably the better pun on that one. But those are just a quick few of the headlines that I was chuckling for whatever reason this week. Just dumping on games, essentially. Yep. Let's just dump on all these games.
Oh, we've been too nice to games this week. Like, Devil May Cry 5 was really good. Apex is really good. Let's shit on some other people. Yeah. Poor Microsoft, Sea of Thieves and Crackdown. You're having a bad time. Well, but their Super Bowl ad was really nice. The disability one.
Yeah, shout out to Microsoft. Microsoft and Xbox, the disabled controller thing. For my money, they won the Super Bowl this year because that advert was pretty touching. It was really nice. Cool because it featured people or young kids with disabilities
varying disabilities as well.
Yeah,
like severity and
that found it difficult to use controllers, and because they've got this. I don't know what they call it.
It has a special name, but and it doesn't look like a controller.
The adaptive controller or something like right? That. So it allows people with disabilities to configure the pads on them to be different inputs or whatever on your Xbox. And it was really cool, and it just strikes home. You know, it might not be a product that sells loads and millions and millions, but it's a product that will mean a lot to a few people who actually need that kind of thing to game. So shout out to Microsoft for that.
Yeah, that was definitely
good on you guys.
Good gesture.
So we are moving on to the next segment of the podcast now. This is the Patreon questions. And if you guys are interested in contributing to the Patreon questions, if you want to be a patron, you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. There you can get early access to this podcast, as well as a host of other things in return for supporting us, bring the content on YouTube and supporting us making these videos. So shout out to everyone on Patreon who does support us every single week, every single month with their monies. We appreciate it. So let's get on with the first question, and this comes from Metal Shark, and it's a multiple kind of point question. So let's start from the very beginning. A few years back, Nintendo was envious of the mobile market. With the 3DS on the wane, and even the competing PSP not doing too well, now Nintendo have found success with the Switch. Do you think it'll, number one, find future successes for years to come with its own handheld market in a similar vein to the Switch? So that's the first part of the question. Now, I think in the UK, the mobile market has always been pretty small. I think the Switch is the first console or first device to be embraced in the UK. I think the mobile market has always been pretty big over in the East especially.
Yeah.
However, it seems like the UK and America, they've picked up on the Switch, and it's a household name. Like it's so many. I mean, I think they got the brand, the marketing right with the Switch was the problem that I had with the Wii U. But specifically, do you think it'll find future successes for years? I do. I certainly do. And I'm definitely in the ecosystem now. I've got a lot of games on my Nintendo account thanks to the Switch. And if they bring out an updated hardware with better Joy-Cons or a better screen or a better spec in total, not just hardware, but just a better spec machine, I would upgrade in a heartbeat. I really would.
I really like my Switch, but I haven't played it for ages. I need to get back into it. But yeah, I definitely think their business model has worked really well because of the quality of the big screen to going to small screen. The fidelity of that is that there's virtually no change. I mean, there's obviously resolution and stuff, but the quality of the handheld games is so strong because they don't feel like handhelds.
No, that's right. And I think the biggest, strongest selling point for the Switch is just the quality of the games.
Yeah.
You think about some of the games you can play now on the Switch. You're talking Breath of the Wild, you're talking Doom you can play on there, there's Wolfenstein, there's so many top tier games, there's Mario if you're into that kind of thing. And going into the future, you can only see more developers developing for the Switch because of the install base. And apparently the Switch sold more last month than any other console. I think the PS4 sales are starting to wane. They've hit their apex and coming down now, as well as the Xbox or whatever, but Switch is still going strong, and it was the strongest month so far.
Good on the Switch, man.
So success for years to come, yes, that's for sure. Do you think it'll need to introduce another fixed console as a mobile tablet device? As mobile tablets become more powerful, introduce another fixed console? I don't think so. I think they've hit their niche. I don't think they need another Wii.
I think they said as well, didn't they, that they're not focusing on home consoles. Well, it's not like their area of interest. They're just not really caring.
Well, it's a 2-in-1, isn't it, essentially?
Yeah, exactly. So
it serves both purposes. Why would they want to restrict the people who want the mobile device now by going just the hardwired console?
And it's so easy with the Switch because you don't have to like reboot it up. You have it plugged in on your screen, you take it out, and then it's there.
Yeah.
You don't have to configure anything. It's just good to go.
For my money, Metal Shark, I would say they probably won't go that route. However, next question. Do you think it'll offer the Switch as a cheap alternative to ever increasing mobile tablets so it becomes the child's first device, maybe even adding more app support? I don't think so. It's Nintendo. They do it their way. It might be all round a better business decision for them to do that. However, they're not in the game of lowering
Yeah.
prices.
I think it would be a great idea for them to add third-party app type things. I think that would be good.
Netflix.
Yeah, but I don't think they will.
They've got YouTube on there. Yeah, they've got
That's
YouTube.
a recent thing.
That is a recent thing. They don't have Netflix. But, however, I think Microsoft. This is like a more recent thing. Microsoft have been working closely with Nintendo, and Microsoft are also working on their cloud-based system. And there was a kind of implication recently in the news, and I can't remember what the headline was or what the article said, but there was talk of them bringing the Xbox Game Pass or some sort of service onto the Switch in future.
Yeah, I read it might have even been Xbox Live.
Live.
There's like a whole thing. I'm like, that's incredible. Not
That would
just
be
for
fun.
the actual service itself, but for those two companies to be cooperating like that.
Yeah. Well, they had that. They cooperated on that marketing, like an advert, basically,
Yeah,
when it was like
for,
Play Anywhere or whatever it was,
Yeah,
like for Fortnite.
because they could cross-play, and everyone's here, not
from
PlayStation. Well, they've bent the knee, haven't they? Now Sony, they're looking into it. I think.
Yeah, they've pledged allegiance to the crossplay thing.
Yeah.
And so that was hopefully that answers your question, Mr. Metal Shark. Moving on, second from Earthwind Ben, and this may be relating to some of the things we've already discussed, but a question goes like this. I don't know if you read the article I linked from The Verge that Apex Legends was a game unknown to EA until it was a working title. But my question is, has AAA gaming been relegated to chasing trends? And then he goes on, will Activision or EA, even Ubisoft, ever publish an original concept or idea again unless they were presented in-house with a working proof of concept? To answer your question, has AAA gaming been relegated to chasing trends? For the most part, yeah.
Yeah,
I think for the
when it comes to
majority.
that end of like the Activisions and the EA's wing of AAA, yeah, they're always after trends. But then you like to look at God of War. It didn't necessarily do anything completely groundbreaking or original, but it wasn't on trend, I wouldn't say.
That's true. That's true enough.
But similarly, Spider-Man did take a lot of open world cliches and put it together, so that kind of followed trends, but just did it better than a lot of recent games.
I mean, you look at Death Stranding. This is the counter argument, right? Death Stranding, we don't know what the fuck that is.
Nope.
We don't even know if it's going to be any good. We know it's from Hideo Kojima. We can kind of assume what the game is going to involve. We've got a grasp on what the themes are in the game. We've got no idea how it's going to play. We've got no idea about anything else. That isn't trending towards anything.
That's what I like about it. I've said it before. If it's shit, that's fine. It's just it's different.
Yeah.
It's unique.
So on the majority part, I would say 100%, not even 100%, that's the wrong way to say it, but almost certainly, or almost entirely, AAA gaming is chasing trends, because that's the big corporations are chasing the bucks, and if they see Fortnite making loads of bucks, they want to chase the trend. They want to ride the coattails and try and get some of those bucks.
There's always more innovation in the indie scene on the lower level developers. You'll find more original experiences, and then hopefully, and sometimes it happens, they go up into the more mainstream.
You'll find that the big publishers, EA, Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, generally as a rule, will be doing games as a service type games where they can monetize for a longer period and generate steady incomes rather than pour loads of money into one project and then have a really big spike in revenue in one particular quarter or whatever. It's not as stable in terms of a business or a corporation, and you can't really sell that as well to shareholders. It's just not as stable.
Yeah.
So that's why, it's all about business. It's all about selling shares and keeping their shareholders happy, and it's just a sign of how it is, unfortunately. However, we still do have, people like Microsoft are doing pretty well, buying up some middle tier AA studios and trying to promote. I think they've got Obsidian's next game, whatever they do after the Outer Worlds coming. They've got Ninja Theory. They've got Compulsion Games. I'm not sure if people are excited for their next game because of how bad the We Happy Few did. However, they've got a handful of decent. They're not AAA, but there's creative things happening.
Yeah, there's potential for sure.
Anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Earthwind Ben. Third question from DK Coley. I have a quick one. If you could revive any dead game series, which would you choose? I would want Left 4 Dead, personally.
Ooh, this is a big question.
Dead game series. Now,
what's dead? Oh well. I would not necessarily revive, but I'd love a remaster of Metal Gear Solid 1. Because Metal Gear is essentially dead now because Kojima's left Konami.
yeah.
And Konami, they did Metal Gear Survive, but no one considers that a real Metal Gear game. Even Konami didn't. They shipped it at less price, and it was just running on the same assets as MGS5. But I would love a full scale, like Resident Evil 2 level remaster of, or remake of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
But they've already kind of done it with the Twin Snakes on the GameCube, but give it to me again.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Resurrected Dead game. I mean, I think I mentioned it the other week, but Star Wars Galaxies, man. Or there was another MMO, space MMO called Earth and Beyond. That was awesome. I like that. Although it's not a series, so it doesn't technically fit into the criteria.
I said it last week. Red Faction. I'd love Red Faction to come back.
Red Faction.
Big, high budget AAA Red Faction to be sweet.
Tenchu Stealth Assassin was a favourite of mine back in the PlayStation era. I loved that game. Loved it.
Splinter Cell's one that I hear a lot of people talking about. I've never been like massive into Splinter Cell, but I do like them, and I think that'd be really cool. I like stealth games.
So, hopefully that answers your question. I'm not sure whether he meant this, but if you could revive any dead game series, and he went for Left 4 Dead. So, no, if he was playing on words there, Dead Stranding, I don't know. That's not even a series, and it's not even released yet, so that doesn't even count. Anyhow, we are moving on to the next question. This was Metal Shark throwing this in the last minute, so we do have time. Another one for this week. Okay. This is a long one. If, hypothetically speaking, there was a consumer-focused developer called Blu-ray Extend Pink releasing a game that in the next year called something like Techno Bumpkin 2077, and they do something pro-consumer like release a DRM-free on all PC platforms, and then made it £50 on their own platform, groovily priced games, £52.50 on Epic, $55 on Discord, and $60 on Steam to reflect the cut of each platform talk, what would your hypothetical thoughts be? Now, this question sounds very convoluted, right? So let's kind of interpret this in terms that people might understand. So let's rewrite this, okay? So, for instance, what if Cyberpunk was published by CD Projekt Red this year or next year on their GOG store for 50 quid, and then on Epic for 55, Steam for 60, and Discord for 55, Epic 50C. So they put it on GOG for 50 quid, and then all the other stores were increased gradually in price.
To account for the various cuts that
they're gonna get.
Launcher takes. Okay. Well, I think I'd go for the GOG one.
Yeah.
Because all the money's going to them.
So what would your hypothetical thoughts be?
I think I'd go for the one that's not necessarily the cheapest. It depends what kind of game it is. If it's a game where I support the creators, I'd pay the one which goes more directly to them. If it's a game I'm not as fussed about, I have no brand loyalty or don't want to say affiliation, but kind of connection or resonance with the company, I'll probably just go for the cheapest one.
I think in terms of business sense, this is the ideal response to what's happened with the Metro Exodus thing going exclusively with the Epic launcher recently and all the backlash that caused. I think that CD Projekt Red have to be very careful now. Although they have done a launch exclusive on Thronebreaker, the most recent spin-off from The Witcher, which they released last year. It didn't sell very well as a platform exclusive on GOG, so that they came out on an investors call or whatever and said it didn't work for us, we're going to stick it on Steam as of kind of right now, earlier than we'd anticipated because it sold so bad. They were honest about that, and I think that was great. So I think if anybody's paying attention to what's happening with the Metro thing, it's going to have to be, it will definitely be CD Projekt Red.
Because Cyberpunk is going to be one of the biggest games whenever it comes out. It's going to be. And they own their own store, so it's not difficult to make that a reality.
I don't think anybody's going to hold it against them if they stick to the guns and say it's only on GOG, because the reason they want to do that is because they want to promote GOG as a marketplace, and then we'll get as many people that installed on as many people's systems as possible. So they might take a little bit of a hit with sales of Cyberpunk over the increased popularity of GOG as a store, because they might profit them in the long run that way. I don't think they'll get the same amount of backlash, but they must be thinking about it. It must be a thought.
Yeah.
Because GOG is DRM free, people are familiar with it already. They're not trying to muscle in on the market, just like Epic are, by paying for exclusives, and that's what generated a lot of the resentment.
I think this is essentially like a console exclusive, essentially, because I think I said essentially twice there.
Essentially.
Well, cause it's as if they were doing it exclusively on consoles, right? And if CD Projekt were Microsoft and Microsoft were making it, they would probably make it Microsoft exclusive.
Yeah.
Xbox exclusive, sorry. So I think that's the same kind of thing, except it obviously will be available on consoles too.
Yeah. I think what Suzesh did here is perfect for my money. I think if they don't go exclusive to the GOG store, this is the perfect way to price structure it on the other stores to reflect exactly, like you said, the cut that each platform takes. So wherever they make the sale, they make the same amount of money, but the customer has to make that choice of where they want to pay more for it. And there's no difference to CD Projekt Red. They get the same money for each one, but the customer has to pay more if they want to play it on their preferred system like Steam or platform like Steam, for example. So if it was me making a decision releasing a game on any store in future, I would do it this way. It's a no-brainer. It's the perfect solution. So thanks for that comment, by the way. I'll shark on both of your comments, in fact.
Yeah. So we've got some lovely YouTube comments
It's
now.
time to get triggered by YouTube comments. Woo!
It's not. I feel like most of the time it's them getting triggered, and then us just being like, "Well, you're just dumb."
I'm sure we can generate some responses here.
All right, so I had one
What
from yesterday's video. There were a couple of like this, but this one had the whole thread of the thing going on. So it's Devil May Cry. Someone called Victor Alkaiser. 2 minutes 06. The chick from Bayonetta. Well, gee, I wonder what that chick's name is. And Monkey Chips replies, Freddy, obviously trying to be funny. And then Sir Galahad, the noble chivalrous knight that Sir Galahad is, comes in and says, Cereza, actually, or Cariza.
Yeah.
So this guy has tried to be snobby and be Bayonetta's name's Bayonetta.
Well,
but it's not apparent.
What we did, we said, that chick from Bayonetta, we said, because we didn't say, Bayonetta from Bayonetta. It's just like saying a TV show like Luther, like that guy from Luther.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing.
It's not incorrect.
It's the show. Like we that guy or that person from this specific show. Because the fact that he was trying to make a point and he got it fucking wrong because Bayonetta is just an old, it's
like an alias.
So Cereza, I'd say Cereza. So Galahad rode in like a white knight.
Cereza May. Oh wow.
So
so Galahad coming in and saving us. Damsels in distress. Good lad. Well done.
Good lad.
Okay. Do you want to say one? Have you got one there? Or do you want me to take another one?
Yeah, if you want to read another one, I'm trying to look for
this one it did make me chuckle. It's on the Apex Legends one from Starkiller22. Activision has left the chat. And I thought that was really funny. Because Activision must be a bit like, shit, they've come along and done it better than we did it.
Well, that's it. You've got a free-to-play game which comes along and does better than a premium game. Here, so Activision can't be too happy.
From your direct rivals.
That's it.
From EA.
So,
have you got one there?
Yeah. On the Apex video, Vika Joku says, EA not buying no matter what. I think you missed the point there, dude. The game is free. But I see your point, though. I still totally on board with it. Not even giving it a light of day because it's EA. But this is Respawn. I mean, you completely missed the point there, didn't you?
You're not losing anything by playing it.
That's true.
Play one round if it's not for you.
You either completely missed the point or he was intentionally making a point. How bad AI, I wouldn't even install a free game from EA. I think, I don't know. You can
I don't think there's that much intelligence to that comment.
You'd be surprised. Some people can be intelligent. I mean, this is the internet. This is the internet, so there's sounds plenty of, very surprising.
Pseudo-intelligence. I got one here from the Apex video again. Binkle, Fortnite meets Overwatch. What does that have to do with Fortnite, LMAO? I mean,
Battle
Fortnite
Royale.
is the biggest Battle Royale game around. Maybe.
Did you miss that the Apex was Battle Royale?
Same genre? No.
That's just fucking. That just proves the common level of intelligence.
What I just said.
All right, another comment here. Sir Galahad. On his own comment. He's on his own comment. Bayonetta's name is Cereza, you fucking uncultured swine. Oh, that's a callback from last week. If you didn't catch it,
he's a good boy then.
Good
Sir
boy.
Galahad. This one's not as funny, but I think it's more of a debate and people getting like frustrated and looking for problems. On the Apex one, a guy called George. EA and their feminist and diversity forced agenda. I'm like, come on, man. There's so many people who are like, oh, it's SJW bullshit, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, that totally does exist. Battlefield 5, which just doesn't fucking make sense. And it's very diverse. But I don't think it's an agenda. EA definitely seems to have that from Battlefield, but I like you're making it a big deal.
Did one of the big executives come out and say, if you don't like it, then don't buy it? Didn't see that happening. Respawn, I've literally said nothing about the game before launch. I can see your point if you want to can promote your political ideology here and turn it into something to promote your point of view, as in there's too much representation across the board. If you want to turn it into a politics, feel free. However, we're just going to play the fucking game. How about that? How about just playing the fucking game?
And people are like, why are you making their gender and sexuality part of the thing? It's not important. Well, they're not. They've written it in their backstories, which it isn't really in the game. You get it by going on the website and you can read it. Like the big guy, the tank character, what's his name? Gibraltar, who's Polynesian, so that's a often underrepresented ethnicity group. He's apparently gay, but they don't make it like it's not front and center. So who actually gives a shit? It's just, oh, there you go, he's gay. So what?
I don't give a shit.
Who fucking cares?
Don't give a
and if you're like fucking triggered by it, you're making a big deal out of it. But then like
you're generating it.
I don't fucking know. But I think it's a good mix of characters because they're not like in your face. And I think who did I say my favorite was the other day? What's her name? Bangalore. I think she's great, mainly because she's got the smoke grenade launcher.
Yeah, that is cool.
She's cool. She's got the best ability, in my opinion. But anyway, you got another one over there?
I've got a couple, but I don't know. I don't even know if they're worth reading out at this point. The chick from Bayonetta. Did you really blank on her name? Says Joel Trippin. Well, personally, I never played Bayonetta, so I don't even know that the character is called Bayonetta.
I don't feel
Bayonetta.
Confident enough, but we've been corrected and then recorrected with Cereza.
Lol.
So, but yeah, she is that chick from Bayonetta.
It's true. She is from Bayonetta.
Right.
So what? Anyway.
That guy from Devil May Cry.
What's his name? What's his name? Devil May Cry?
Yeah, Mr.
Probably not.
Mr. D May Cry.
So, do we have many more before we move on?
I've got a couple here. One from the Anthem demo, and this was fraught with people essentially telling me how stupid I am for not pushing a button to know how to hover. Because apparently you click R3 when you're in the air, you go straight to hover. And
you missed that.
Foolishly said that you have to be in full scale flight, even though I actually said, I don't know, blah, 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 that like you can't do it that I'm aware of. And I've got it time-stamped if you wanna get fucking panicky about it like you have, you little swine.
Let's prove it.
7 minutes 35.
Let's have a look at the facts.
Shall we turn the volume up? Let's hear it. Where's the speaker? It's not even on. Fuck. This is getting embarrassing now.
What do you mean now?
I was trying to do it. You can't go straight into a hover from, well, at least That I'm aware of. Butt liquor.
Wow, Henry.
Oh yeah. So the actual comment itself. Where is it? Hover is pushing the other analog stick. The build is over 6 weeks old. Overall, pretty bad video.
This is another example of them projecting their frustration with people not liking the game towards us. It's like, we have these opinions. We don't, all you have to do is say, right, I understand your point of view. You don't have to say, shit video, shit work, guys, because I don't agree with you. It's not shit video because you disagree with us. It's maybe a poor opinion if you don't agree with us. It's not a bad because they calling it out on a mistake I made, which as I said, I clarified that I wasn't fully informed in the fucking video, calling me out on an actual fair guts mistake, but nothing else. It's just like, oh, I don't have any actual arguments. It's like when you pick holes in people's grammar. It's like, oh, well, you've missed an apostrophe there, so you're a cuck or whatever. Yeah. Oh, the other thing. I mean, we might be cucks, but it's not because we missed the fucking apostrophe.
What's it? Beta cuck soy boy fucking. The build being over 6 weeks old thing. That's such bullshit. Why the fuck am I playing a demo if it's 6 weeks old? And then there's people being like, it's obviously not a demo, it's a beta. And I was like, well, why is it called a beta? Why are you defending them? They've mismarketed it.
Yeah.
If it's 6 weeks old, why am I playing it? The demo's supposed to be a representation of the final game.
Exactly.
Horseshit.
A demonstration of the game, right? That's the whole point. It's like, you play, this is what the game is like. How do so many publishers, developers make demos that are in working order, a la Resident Evil, a la Devil May Cry, Apex got it day one with no demo, right? And they hit the ground running. How can so many developers get it right? And you argue in favor of Anthem just because you like that fucking game. It's not how it works, man. That is not how it works. You can't defend the game using no fucking facts just because you like it. Use the facts. Look at the facts, you ignorant swine.
On that note, I've got a comment here which is directly related to that sort of stuff. From Kurumi Tokisaki. Well, this is just a beta for Anthem. Duh, that's why you run in bugs and glitches. Whoever don't get that it's a beta, well, don't just judge it yet. Don't judge it just yet. BioWare. Besides, Anthem is a BioWare game. I'm like, well, it's not a beta because it's called a demo. It feels like a beta, but fundamentally, what it's called is a demo.
The only beta around here is the master beta right in that comment.
Fucking love it.
I don't get how these Anthem loyalists,
shills.
They're like, well, the ideologists, right? Yeah. They're coming in and they're like, they don't care about facts. They don't care about the situation. Yeah. They only care about what they love and what they've already spiritually adhered to. It's like, fuck that. You're wrong because you're saying facts. Everything that's wrong with the game is all your fault, and we'll criticize you for it because I love this game. This game's going to be awesome, and so what? Besides, I am the internet 2019.
Anthem is a BioWare game. I'm sorry, did you forget about Andromeda when that came out? What a shit show that was. Or when was the last time they did anything really good? I mean, when Inquisition came out, I think that was, people liked it. Well, I don't think people thought it was amazing.
It doesn't have the DNA of a BioWare game. This has the DNA of an EA game. Game as a service. Yep. It's going to be there for God knows how many years. Milking microtransactions. It's there as a facade to milk you of your cash. Let's just love it because it's BioWare. No thanks. BioWare have done awesome things. I'm not going to love something unconditionally unless it's my child or something, right?
Well,
unless it was my game that I gave birth to.
There's a good Jim Jeffries bit about unconditional love from a parent or whatever, because it's not. He says it's not really unconditional because it's conditional on me not killing you,
cutting off a tit.
Yeah. What if I cut your tit off? Would you still love me?
What if BioWare cut your tit off? Would you still love Anthem then?
That would be that weird BioWare romance situation. You're trying to romance them when you cut their tit off.
Okay,
oh, fucking hell.
I've got a good one to finish here. Jason Mimic says, 2 hours of playtime and you think you've a solid perception of the demo? 3 question marks. You guys are a joke. I think that's the point of us saying it was 2 hours of us playing it, so that you understand the context of everything we were going to say. We didn't say we'd played it. We could have hidden the fact that we'd played it, but no, we were being open and transparent. We've only played it for these 2 hours, and these are our impressions. So you take what we say with that in context, as with a pinch of salt, if you like. If we don't like the game, it might be because it's 2 hours. That's the reason we said it was 2 hours. Stop being a dick and just go away.
We even said I wanted to play more, but I couldn't because I had things to do, and made a point about how I'm not popular or cool. Because, like, I've got shit to do, man. And I didn't say this in the video, but in that 2 hours, I got to the end of the demo where it says, you finished the demo. You can now do strongholds or whatever. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I don't want to do that. I've got things to do.
No. Finishing the demo once isn't good enough for these Anthemites. What should we call them? These
troglodytes.
You're a joke, Henry. You're a joke.
I am a joke.
Admit it. Shame. Ding, ding.
Shame.
How dare you finish the demo once and only have that to say about it? Shame.
There's. I haven't got any comments of it, but there's all the ones that this is a terrible review. The game's not even out. I mean, I'm pretty sure we didn't ever say it was a review. The best we said it was impression. We might have said it was a review, but it's a review of the demo, and it's impressions. Like,
I think the worst thing about putting content out online on YouTube is people coming to a video and completely
like preconceived things,
ideas of what we said, and completely taking what we've said to an extreme. You did say you had fun with the demo.
Yeah,
but
I reiterated that.
You had problems. There was a balanced opinion and a thought out critique, and you prefaced everything you said. I played it for 2 hours. You give all your reasons, but still you're a hater. You boil down all your criticisms and all your opinions are invalid because they can boil you down and characterize you as an Anthem hater. That is not how it works, dude. And if that's all you're doing is you're undermining people's opinions and characterizing them as an extremist or something that they don't like something because they've got an extreme opinion, that's your fault, not ours, right?
And I don't want to hate any game. I don't want to hate anything. It's not my fault if it's shit. I want games to be good. I like good fucking games. I'm not like, oh, you know what my favorite fucking game is? Oh, it's Anthem because it's glitchy as shit. It might be your favorite game, and that's great. I'm happy for you. It's not mine.
We can rant against these commenters for days because we have to put up with all this shit. So forgive us if we've gone off a little bit here, guys. But this is... Imagine you go to work, right, every single day, and not only your boss criticizes you, not only your fellow workmates criticize you, but all the public come in and criticize you at will and take what you say out of context and completely mischaracterize you and mischaracterize what you've said in order to make themselves feel better about their own opinions and spew all this bile in your direction. Imagine that was your job. It's not easy. It's a good job to have, but it has its challenges. I'm not complaining about this job. I'm just saying it has its challenges, which is why you just got the last 20 minutes of rant from us. That explains it, right?
Yeah.
Everything for its reasons. Anyway, that is it for another episode of PGG Podcast. That is number 5, wrapped up in the books. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the Tad Cops. And thanks for listening in for those of you. By the way, if you didn't know already, the podcast audio is available on your favorite streaming service like Spotify or Apple iPlayer, whatever that's called. iTunes. Also, the other podcast services like Castbox or anything I don't know if Podbean's even one, but if you want to get...
you got options.
It's there if you want to just listen to it and not watch it on YouTube. That is it. Oh, and also, by the way, on the Patreon webpage, if you just want to download the MP4, if you're you don't even have to be a patron. You just have to wait until it gets launched, released to public on YouTube, and then you can head over to Patreon. I set it as early access, but then I opened the Patreon post to the public, so you can download the MP3, from there on the page itself for free. You are welcome. On that note, we will see you again in the next podcast next week. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.